Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day. So far, after a dramatic season of Call of Duty, Kenny responds on a couple of points to the competitive COD community, but also Shotzzy revealing that despite starting the season in a terrible manner, but finishing with back-to-back tournament victories, Shotzzy reckons he is the smartest player in the game in terms of understanding how to play Call of Duty at the highest level. Is that fair outside of the game? Some may argue maybe not, but inside the game, Shotzzy reckons he is the man to beat when it comes to an IQ test for competitive Call of Duty. Is this fair analysis? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Started off with this, I thought was pretty cool, that Omid are putting together a documentary of the way that their season concluded. Of course, they won pretty much all the events and challenges at the end of the season, and notably turned up to the Esports World Cup, knocked out Atlanta FaZe, or of course they were FaZe clan as they were competing for there. So this is pretty sick, right? They're working on a project, 8 months of footage, 5 events, couple of different teams, 3 championships, and they're going to put together this, full season documentary. So I think this is going to be mega content. It's great to see for the scene as well that this type of stuff is happening. And look, some of this content doesn't always get as supported as we might like. There's a few teams that have done their documentary series. I think Boston did a great job of it this year. There's other teams that have done it this year and continued doing it over the last couple of seasons that have had good success as well. And look, it's great for the fans of those teams. It's great for the competitive COD fans. And, the argument will always be, oh, well, the competitive COD fans should watch more of this content, support it more as they would, watch the process or whatever from OpTic. Look, at the end of the day, some of these documentaries, while they might be good, they're maybe not advertised, or the thumbnails and the titles aren't as good as they could be. So I think that kind of holds them back sometimes anyway. So I think that, the name of the game with YouTube is that half of the win, let's say, is in the thumbnail and the title, right? You can make a phenomenal video, spend months on it, but if half of the job is in advertising in the right way, and I think that some of the teams in COD that do these documentary series could focus a bit more on that. But still, I think it's a great thing for the scene. There was also questions, of course, about the Esports Nations Cup, which is coming next year sometime, and Zuma's trying to run a World Cup, his own World Cup here. Illy, though, he needs 1 for the Indian team, and, well, Gersh is the first man in the replies trying to get his name in that spot. Just quickly, I mean, it's funny, right? Black Ops 7 is not out yet. Modern Warfare 4, next year's game, is not even in the conversation. Rumor has it the year after that is going to be Vanguard 2. So if you liked Vanguard, get ready for Vanguard 2. Time will tell if that actually comes true or not. Happy birthday yesterday, by the way, to 3 different players in the league. September the 2nd is Slasher's 31st birthday, if he does return to the league. And I think there is still a role for Slasher in this league. I know that last season wasn't ideal, and Ravens as an organisation are probably going to go. We're expecting them to probably kick them out in favour of Space Station Gaming, or to get sold, or whatever the case is. And if Space Station come in, will they keep Slasher? To be honest, they possibly could. I think depending on what Space Station do, it's my theory anyway, that if Space Station do come in for Ravens, then I wouldn't be surprised if they at least look at some of the HyDra guys. If the HyDra guys aren't getting signed elsewhere and they could get them, I think that's what SLG will or SSG will consider doing. And maybe putting Slasher, a veteran, with those guys makes sense, right? And in terms of veteran ARs left in the league, there aren't very many, obviously, and Slasher's pretty much the last one now. Clay's retired, Accuracy's retired, Octane's retired, and all of this. So I still think there's potentially a role for Slasher. He actually started this most recent season pretty well, then it fell off a cliff a little bit. Kenny turned 26 yesterday, so still pretty young in the grand scheme of things, given all that he's achieved. And then Geo was 22. There was a bit of talk about Geo, because he was, of course, he only came into the scene in the last couple of years, but people were talking about how he used to play back in Cold War. Of course, Cold War came out in 2020, and 2021 was the competitive Cold War season. So, we're talking that Geo might have been in the 17 or something when he was playing a little bit of Cold War. But, look, it wouldn't be competitive Call of Duty without ringers. If you guys remember that term, which used to be relatively common, it was notable back in Black Ops 3 when some of the pro players would throw Simp and aBeZy, or certainly Simp, like Simp and Cellium, those guys, a little bit of money to go and play on their accounts for them. and it was just like a known thing that was done. It's pretty outrageous, but that is part of competitive COD history. Kenny says, turn 26 a day, time's been flying. Maybe we'll get confirmation soon as to where he's going to go next. Dashy gave some thoughts on that as well. Of course, a duo for a little bit of time, had good success together. Now they will be rivals again for the upcoming season. I did want to share this quick clip as we talk about the Shotzzy stuff as well, because Kenny was talking about the GAs, the state of things right now, the things that get banned in the game and all of this. And look, Kenny does say in the replies that the kind of clip here, there's more to it, right? There's more to his opinion than just what he says here. But, you know, he talks a little bit about how the pros, they do, in his opinion, they do try things. But, like, the pros are going to be generally of the opinion that the way that they do things is better because they control the cards, right? Like, you might not agree with the way that the pros do things, but you can understand that the way that it currently is, where the pros get to GA things, and some of the pros are more reasonable than others when it comes to deciding what to GA. It's just, currently, the pros make the decisions. They're not going to want to enter a world where they don't make the decisions because they currently have the power. Why would they want to give it up? But if the league decides what they're going to do and maybe takes a heavier stance on this, if there's further conversations there, and of course the fans, given that we have no control, no power apart from roasting the players on Twitter, which has sometimes worked in the past, to be fair, obviously, the fans want more control. The players don't want to give their control up of the GA. So that's the discussion. And Kenny's trying to say, look, we kind of do try. Obviously, things aren't exactly ideal, but I'll share that clip for you guys in a second.
But the thing is, the pros try, though. Y'all making it seem like the pros don't even, like, okay, some of these are instant GAs. I get that. But I feel like for the most part, you can look at some of these guns and instant GA them. For the most part. A lot of the guns were tried. XM4 was tried multiple times this year, and it still was the most busted gun in the scrims. Like, it was used hella, and it was still the most busted shit. Craig, instant GA. That's why I said for the most part. I'm just saying. It, like, I don't think y'all understand how boring it was to play in the XM4 meta. But then again, if y'all are okay with it being an option, but that's just the only gun we used, then I feel like that's just, like I said, I just think that's not what anybody was thinking.
What would you say the biggest learning curve for Black Ops 6? Me personally was adapting to being like a person that talks about the game like a lot. Like, my new role in this OpTic team is literally to make sure we're always on the same page. And I've always been like the player to do that, like have conversations about the game and shit, but never the main guy. You know what I'm saying? I felt like it came naturally though. Like, it wasn't really forced. Like, it just naturally came. Cause like, I'm not gonna lie, I truly feel like I know the game better than literally anyone. Like, I truly think that. I'm not just saying that shit to like say it. I truly think that, and that's why whenever I do talk about shit, like, I'm never second guessing like if I'm ever wrong or right. And I'm always open to like listen to shit too. Like, I'm never sitting there like saying my way or the
What do we think about this from Shotzzy, right? People are looking at this 4-piece again from back at the World Championship where they turned up into the Grand Finals, and, well, Shotzzy was popping something like this to end up closing out. Well, to be fair, they didn't end up closing out the map or the tournament here, but still, definitely one of the craziest 4-pieces ever. There have been some good 4-pieces in COD history. This was one that I had City jumping up and down in his chair. But Shotzzy had such a roller coaster of a season. And yeah, this clip's pretty old, but I had it saved up because things have been quieter in Rostermania over the last few days. So I thought, okay, let's go back and talk about some interesting things that happened a little while ago. And Shotzzy has stepped into that leadership role, really. Like, it was kind of Scump when he was towards the end of his career. It was pretty interesting. When Scump was on the Dynasty, you would never really consider him to be the leader. It's kind of Crim6 or Karma, depending on your opinion. But then after that team moved on, towards the end, Scump was the captain. He was the leader in some regards. He wasn't always necessarily the in-game leader or the leader of the comms, but it kind of went that way, that the face of the team often kind of becomes the leader. And Shotzzy this season, with Kenny's departure, effectively became the leader of the team, right? Which was not maybe expected from Shotzzy's perspective, but with Dashy there, and Dashy's also, I think, grown a little bit in that regard as well, to become a little bit more like Octane in terms of how, and even formal to some degree, in terms of well-rounded he is as a player. But, you know, it wasn't going to be Mercules, right? And it's not going to be Huke in terms of leadership. Yeah, Huke's comms are good, but in terms of decision-making, how they want to approach the game, it was very clear that it was Shotzzy and Kenny who were going to war over this type of stuff. There was discussion here back at the start of July that Shotzzy said that him and Kenny were often arguing about things, butting heads over ideas, and the other guys weren't really saying anything, right? So it was Shotzi's way or it was Kenny's way, and Shotzzy admits, like, yeah, he's not so arrogant that he thinks he's right all the time. He's open to discussions, but he believes that his way of playing the game and his understanding of the best approach to play competitive Call of Duty, the pacing, the way you should play with your team, how to approach certain situations and hard points and rotations and whatever, is superior. And look, you might argue that Kenny's way was better in the last title. I mean, it seemed that Kenny had a lot of impact on that OpTic team and the success that they had. And you could argue that Modern Warfare 3 required maybe a slightly slow, more methodical style that maybe Kenny preferred. Whereas for this game, Black Ops 6, with the movement and everything, I think Shotzi's way was clearly the way to go. And I think we saw when Kenny left and the success that Rocker didn't have, right? And the success that Shotzzy had, that probably on this one he was on the money. But then he makes quite the statement, right? And I actually really like this out of Shotzzy, because I think you've got to be, certainly if you're a player on this level, you're trying to actually win stuff and be competitive and become the greatest to ever do it. You got to believe in yourself to the absolute utmost. And clearly Shotzzy does, right? He's like, look, you guys can think whatever you like of me outside of the game, right? Like, if I've got to guess the capitals of the countries and the flags of the worlds, Shotzi's not going to be the best of that. But to be in a game, a competitive Halo or competitive Call of Duty, and knowing the game at a deep level, I think other players have made this clear as well. I think even Formal's kind of said it, that yeah, you can say what you want about Shotzzy outside of the game, but in the game, his knowledge of the game and just his intuition for the way the game should be played is pretty much unrivaled. But the funny thing about this is that Shotzzy, the way he started the year, was very different, right? Like, if you'd have gone back to because Shotzi's had this confidence all year. That's what I respect about this. That back in January, he made all these comments about the other teams don't know what they're doing. They're just here to collect a check. You guys don't know how to play the game. You know, you're getting pay cuts and you wonder why. Clowns, guys don't know what you're doing. Like, you know, S&D8 to won me all these chips, gonna chill now, but pros put the fries in the bag. Like, we lost the break-off. Most teams study break-offs more than playing efficient. These guys are idiots. So Shotzi's been yapping about this all year. Then they went on that horrific run that even Shotzzy, Kenny, whatever, were not able to get them out of. But once they blew that up and they got Mercules in and kind of reset the team and everything, and even with Skies, they were getting a little better, but I think they were kind of resigned to their fate with Skies. Mercules definitely turned things around. And look, some fans will say, maybe of other teams, that look, Mercules saved that guy. Certainly that's Aches' opinion, right? That without the Messiah or whatever, then the OpTic Savior, whatever he called him, then like the Legacy Savior, that was it, then Shotzzy wouldn't have been able to make these kind of comments after winning the last two events of the season. But yeah, intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Is this too far from Shotzzy to say that he, you know, thinks he knows the game better than anybody else? Whatever your opinion on that is, because I'm sure other players would disagree. I think the fact that Shotzzy is like, yeah, this is my opinion, I'm not going to change it, right? I'm that guy. And I think you've got to have that level of confidence if you actually want to win stuff on this level. So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.
You're hoping if you're Rocker to at least be getting some of this time. Last 15 seconds.
Holy fuck, wait, are they weak? Wait, there's no fucking way. Yo, what they wait.
Dashy trying his best towards the back as the rest of OpTic Texas now finding his push.
What? Bro.
Dashy gets one. The time for Ultra.
Yo, what the fuck? Why didn't you just run around with this shit? Yo. I'm tripping. I don't remember this shit.
One versus one we go. Dashy coming through.
Oh my god.
It will ring true.
Yo, I don't remember shooting like that. This shit crazy. Oh, here we go.